They had a minion without a problem, I hope?
Yeah. Today was the last day.
Right. Okay, we'll get started momentarily. All right, Steve is on. Harvey is on.
Yep. Good morning.
Okay, Harvey, Steve, Ruvain. Ruvain, you
Good
there,
morning.
Ruvain? It said to me 4 people were on.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm on.
Yeah, okay.
They will follow you.
And Ari, you on?
What? What? His name is Colin. Colin. What are you gonna try? Okay, definitely so.
Shmuel Goldstein also. Shmuel, you'll tell he spoke.
So he's got 3:45 at 4 o'clock Eastern Meal at
No.
Century Grill. Do you know where that is? Across the street. You leave,
Across the
go
street,
out,
down the
take
road.
Kimberly Gate. And you cross Lions Road.
Oh,
The main street.
When you go out, you make a left. Where are you? Which,
I know where the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, that's where it is.
whoa,
Okay.
okay.
Good.
All right, gentlemen, let's get,
I invited somebody. I invited somebody.
Yeah, tell them.
I'm gonna bring a guest to the.
To see him.
So bring your guests.
We'll be able to handle
So if worst comes to
He or
worst,
she,
they'll put some more chairs.
Okay.
Or we'll put you out.
All right,
Yeah, if worst comes to worst, I'll share a burger with him.
And it's not a
Okay.
class.
okay, just, let's get underway. Learning sponsors. First of all, we should be aware of the fact that Shalashudas on Shabbos is sponsored by Rabbi Tzvi and Robin Karpel, and also Rabbi David and Sharon Karpel, in memory of their father, Zev Moshe ben Shlomo Yaakov. Okay, that's the Shalashudas. Year of Learning by Sue and Arnie Gerlich in memory of Malka Pro Man and Philip Mann. Okay, and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henry Rivka Pro Rosna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends. In memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbach Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents. Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler, Charna bat Yeshaya. the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory, friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein, and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher, friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Asna Bat Yitzchak Aharon, many friends of Stephen Vigdor, L'zecher Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha. A month of learning by Haran and Mel Haller, in memory of her mother Malka Rachel Bat Yehuda Leib, by B. Pizer, in memory of her husband Rav Yisrael Chaim Ben David, Tova and Leo Zimmer, in memory of her mother Henya Bas Rav Beryl and her father Aaron Ben Yosef Mordechai. Perry and Jill Meltzer, in memory of his mother Malka Bas Baruch and his sister Golda Leah Bas David Halevi. Stanley Presser, in memory of his mother-in-law Golda Bat Leber, his mother Leah Bat Yehuda, and his wife Ruchel Mincha Bas Moshe. Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her father Yehoshua Shia Ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen. David and Sharon Capel, in memory of his father Zev Moshe Ben Shlomo. We have a week of learning by Barbara Gallendauer, in memory of her husband Avram Ben Yonatan, by Sylvia Gutas, in memory of her mother Devorah Bat Ruven Chaim, again by Sam Levine and Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of Sam's parents and Charlie's in-laws, Livsha Bat Avram and Yechiel Michal Ben Arav Alexander Ziskin. Today is the 14th, right? And we have a day of learning today by Eli and Sheila Zimmerman, in memory of his father, Alter Ben Sion Ben Eliyahu Yehuda. Okay. And that is it. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, Crank of Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shem Atliah, and L'chol B'nai Israel a good gebenched yar. And in addition, I want to add a mazel tov in a couple places. If anybody sees Rabbi Grant, wish him mazel tov for the engagement of his granddaughter, Kira Dennis of Hollywood, to Josh David of New Rochelle, and also Sharon and Heshi Sokol, and Zena and Jack Payson. Wish them mazel tov on the engagement of their mutual grandson, Yoni Sokol of Cedarhurst, to Aliza Schenker of Muncie, New York. Okay. All right. And one other, we might as well mention it too, because this is special. Barbara Sturman, those who know Barbara, on the birth of a great-great-granddaughter.
Wow.
The first parents are Sivan and Yonatan Marcus of Israel. Right. All right. That you got to mention, right? Got to mention. Yeah. Well, now you'll be able to tell them. All right. Okay. All right. Or even before then, maybe you'll see him in shul on Shabbos. Right. Okay. A very, very short, brief, quick introduction to Gemara Moed Katan. You know what a Moed is, right? It's a Yontif. Okay? But when do we have a Yontif? First days and last days of Pesach and Shavuot and Sukkot. So what's in between, Zev? Chol HaMoed, right? So what do we do on Chol HaMoed? What can't we do on Chol HaMoed, right? Especially if, okay, so that's what we're going to see. All right, what can we do and what can't we do in Chol HaMoed? All right, now, if you're an agrarian society, all right, then in particular you're concerned about what you can do and can't do on Chol HaMoed, aside from being a mercantile society. But the Gemara is fixing on the fact that certainly in Eretz Yisrael, it was primarily a agrarian society. And so that's where we're focused first, okay? So Amud Beis, as we start in Moed Katan, Mashkin Beit HaShlachim B'Moed. Okay, we can deal with irrigated fields on Okay,
On the irrigation.
okay.
system.
right, on the, during the Chol Hamoed. Ubeshvi'it, and we also, okay, right? Are we also, right? So we have two occasions where we can either turn the irrigation on, clear out the irrigation. We're gonna see all of these issues, okay? Sometimes we want to call them a canal. Sometimes we're gonna call them a channel, okay? Depends on which target, which translation you're using. But these may be done, this is the Resha of the Mishnah during on Chol Hamoed and B'Shvi, the Shvi's year. Bain mima'atin. I'm sorry, Bain mima'ayan. I gotta get my glasses fixed. Bain mima'ayan sheyatsa b'tchila, whether it is a spring that has come out, okay, initially, in other words, at the beginning of the holiday, says one Perush. Okay, Bain mima'ayan shelo yatsa b'tchila, or whether it is a spring that has been ongoing. Okay, aval ein mashkin lo mimei hagshamim, but we are not able to irrigate the field based on the fact that it is done by rainwater. Velo mimei hakilon. Oh, and here we've got a great thing. Okay, if Koren, you will actually see a picture of what it's talking about. Okay, you cannot drive irrigation for this field from a pail or a bucket. And that is the direct translation of kilon, but in reality, it is called a shaduf, which is a lever used to raise water with a bucket attached to the end that is lowered down into a deep well and then pulled up. Right, and as I said, there's actually a picture of one in the current Koran. All right, Steinsaltz Koran. Ve'eno sin ugiot legefani. No cookies there. No circular ditches made around the bottom of the one tree and being able to lead a channel or a pathway of water to another tree. Okay, for the vines. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Eino sin et ha'ama betchila b'moed u'b'shvi'it. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, we cannot make an irrigation channel or canal initially, okay, on Moed, on Chol Hamoed, or during the Shvi's year. The Chachamim Omrim and the sages disagree, and what do they say? Osinet ha'ama betchila b'shvi'it, that it is permissible to make an irrigation canal or channel, okay, during the Shvit, during that Shemitah year. Umitaknin et ha'mekutalot b'moed, and one may repair damaged channels or canals, okay, on Chol Hamoed. Now, continuing, umitaknin et kilkulei hamayim shebereshut harabim, says the Mishnah, and we may repair those ruined, you want to call it channels, pipes, irrigation areas, all right? Cisterns, right? Could be. All right, hamayim shebereshut harabim, that are in the public domain. Okay. Otan. Now, I have two different translations of the word chotatin. According to one, it's to clean these cisterns and irrigation canals. According to the other, it's to clear. Either way, it's more or less the same concept. Okay? Right. Umitaknin et hadrachim, and we may take care of the public thoroughfares, repair the roads. In other words, deal with infrastructure. Okay? Ve'et rechovot. Okay, and the pathways. So it's highways and roadways. Ve'et mikvaot hamayim. Here's what I had as cisterns. Okay, repair those. Ve'osin kol tzorchei harabim, and do all of those items that are necessary for the community welfare. Not only that, says our Mishnah, u'mitzainin et hakevarot, and we mark graves. Okay, now we're going to ask, why is that the case? All right, right. We're going to see if the Gemara deals with that in detail. Okay, clearly, okay, remember we've seen examples where, all right, where did sometimes they would bury a deceased on the side of the road. And therefore, if you didn't mark the grave, what would be the problem? Kohanim, right. Well, anybody, but particular Kohan. Right? V'yotzein af al hakla'ayin. And they would also go out, according to one explanation, to inspect and uproot any diverse kinds. Okay, in those situations. Michael, you wanted to share a thought?
This uproot.
Yeah. That was,
Koren said uproot.
Koren had both inspect and uproot.
Because later in the daf, we're gonna learn you're not allowed to uproot.
Right, so that's the question.
Archgo's note says also agents of the court would inspect the fields and uproot any claims.
They said, so Art School also acknowledges that.
Yeah, but maybe the uprooting is, maybe they would mark.
Okay, so we're gonna have to come back, when we get to the Gemara, we'll come back to that. Okay. Okay, now, let's go to hit the Gemara. Gemara, Hashta, Yesh Lomar Mima'ayan Shiatzah B'tchila. Here, it seems to tell us that we're talking about a spring that has suddenly come through the ground and come up at the beginning of the holiday. Okay, all right, perhaps that's what happened. Da'ate le'in pule, and we're concerned that that new spring, the walls along of that might collapse, and that's why we're concerned that we could do something with mashkin. Okay, there we're able to irrigate. Okay, mima'ayan shelo yatzah b'tchila delo ate le'in pule mebaye, but a spring, okay, which has not suddenly come up or come through, right? Where the walls of that are less apt to collapse. Mebaye, we have a problem, we have a question.
No, I think it's the opposite. In other words,
Right.
If it's okay for the new one where you're afraid that the walls might collapse, why do you even need to bother telling us about one that's established?
Okay, well, that's why we have the question. Okay,
What's the problem with the walls collapsing? What if the water will go through?
if you have a new spring that has come up, okay, and it hasn't, okay, the earth on the other side could very well collapse and close it up, right?
The question would be, are you allowed to fix that?
So are you allowed to do anything with it?
The non-column is between things.
Oh, wait, well, wait,
Because the answer is-
wait, Michael. You're right, but we're not there yet. Okay, don't jump ahead. Okay, no, but don't jump ahead. Okay, I'm right. We say it's tarich. Okay, maybe we say it's necessary. Itana ma'ayan shiatzah b'tchila. If we're talking about a spring that has suddenly come forward, come out, right? Hava amina hacha. I might say here, hu de beit hashlachin in beit habaal lo. That in this case, if we're talking about a field normally taken care of by irrigation, yes. But another kind of field, which is a rain-watered field, okay, I would say no. Mishum da'ate le'in pule, because there's a possibility that it might collapse. Okay. Aval ma'ayan shelo yatzah b'tchila delo ate le'in pule, but a spring, okay, that has not suddenly come through the earth, okay, and sprouting out water, okay, where it is not going to collapse. Okay? In other words, it is a long, it is a, it's been in existence for some time. Okay? Well established is another, right? Ema, I might say, afilu beit habal nami, that in that case, even in regards to a rain-watered field, I should be able to deal with it. Kamashmala comes to teach us the following. Lo shna, there is no difference, ma'ayan sheyatzeh b'tchila, okay, with a spring that comes out initially, v'lo shna ma'ayan shelo yatzeh b'tchila, and nor any difference with a spring that has not come out brand new initially. Beit shlach, okay, in a field that is watered through irrigation, yes. Beit habal, but a field that is watered by rainwater, no.
No.
Umay mashma tahai beit hashlachim, okay, lishna titzachutahi. And on what is the basis, I'm going to say, that the phrase Beit HaShlachim is language that it tells us it's dealing with thirst, okay, that it needs to be watered. Dichtiv, because we have a pasuk that says Va'ata ayef v'yageya, all right, from the pasuk that what they were, right, wandering there in the midbar, umatar gaminan, and we translate that in the right? Va'at mishalhe v'lai. Okay, and mishalhe refers to being thirsty, right? Umay mashma dahai beit haba'al lishna damai utahi. And how is it possible that we would say that a field that is rainwater is a language that shows it deals with a settlement? Okay, how is that the case? Dichtiv, because it's written, Ki yiv'al bachor betula, in the pasuk where it says again that a young man will take a woman, a virgin for a wife. Umatar gaminan, and we translate that again with uncles. Ari kama demitotav olam am betulta yit yatuvun begoyech banayich. Okay, that again, when a young man comes to become involved with a woman, okay, they do so in a settled, so to speak, area. So the Gemara now brings up the point that at this point, I'm going to ask Michael to make his comment, okay? Because they're going to deal with a couple of concepts. Right? Michael, go ahead.
There are a couple of tension issues here. One, it needs to be done. Two, it takes effort. So one of the problems with Chol Hamoed is doing things that have tirka, that take effort. Typically not allowed, but sometimes yes. Another tension we're going to have is that you can do things to avoid immediate loss, but you cannot do things to avoid profit, to make money. A watered field, if you do not repair the irrigation ditches, a field that requires irrigation, the existing planting will be harmed. That's called the loss. So there you can do things. But with a field that normally relies on rainwater, if you added water to it, that would merely enhance growth. There is no risk, unless there's a drought, of that field dying because it always gets watered. So there you would not be allowed because the tircha would be to aid you in having a better crop. That's future. That's not allowed. These tensions, the other tensions are public needs.
Okay. I'm just
Public needs. People have time on Chol Hamoed. So all of these various tensions create the issues of where the Chachamim permit malacha on Yom Tov and Kol Hamoed, and where they do not. So we're starting with this agricultural issue of the fields, but we have to tease out from that the basic concepts of what the patterns of behavior. That's how we learn what the halachas will be.
If you look at the introduction to in the art scroll to Moed Katan, you'll see that it highlights, first of all, factors that prohibit work on Chol Hamoed, one of which is tircha yetera, the issue of excessive exertion, which we're going to see momentarily. Okay, that would limit what could be done. All right. Okay. Another example where work is permitted, also in that introduction, is davar ha'aved, something that will be lost. Okay. So you could call them tensions. Okay. You have other examples. So as we continue now with the Gemara, we're going to see that the Gemara raises this question. Do we permit something even though there might be excessive exertion, which would therefore be a limiting factor? Or do we say that the factor of loss, okay, is greater, and therefore that overrides the negative element of extra exertion? Exactly. That's what we're going to see now as the Gemara continues.
But isn't a field that is irrigated by Roy in a higher class than one that is irrigated through?
Good question. I'm not going to give you an answer. Okay? Because I want us to continue. We need to continue further in the Gemara to see if the Gemara is going to address your question. If it doesn't, then we're going to have to come back to it. But an excellent question, Mark. Alan.
Talks about it, the first mission is that a field that requires irrigation. It says as an example, one that's on a mountain.
You can't hear you behind you. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Rashi, the first Rashi of the Masechta talks about what is a field that requires irrigation. And it talks about a field on a mountain where the rainwater hits it, but immediately flows down away from it, as opposed to one that's in the valley where the rainwater might gather.
Right. So Rashi's basically giving us an example,
Right.
but I'm not sure if he's really,
That's not the only example.
what?
It's probably not the only example.
It's not the only example, but I'm not sure if that really comes to answer Marvin's question. Okay? All right. Okay, so now that we've clarified both from Michael's contribution and the fact that if we need to, we have a place to go back to see the concepts. All right, we can now continue back to the text of the Gemara. Okay, so let's come back. All right, so we see that we've asked two questions. How do we know that that the field needs to be watered? Okay, we have language that tells us that. How do we know that a rain-watered field is usually associated with settlement, and therefore it may have other aspects? Okay. All right. So the Gemara now continues as follows. All right. Mantana the Pseda, the one who teaches that there could be an irretrievable loss, right? And yes, in other words, that would be a criteria to allow us to let the person work in Chol Hamoed. Harvachen, but if we're talking about some sort of profit, no, that's not the case. Va'afilu b'mkom psida, and even when there's a situation of loss, mitrach nami lo tarchinen, I'm saying that as a question. Isn't there still this issue of excessive exertion? Isn't that still an issue? So we have a okay, like I said, a tension, a conflict between concepts or values that would permit work versus those that would limit the work. Okay. Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he claims, says Rav Huna, that he is the author of this Mishnah. Right? Titznan, as was taught, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, he says, Moshchin et hamayim me'ilan le'ilan. Okay? That one could divert or draw water in channels from one tree to another. Ubilvad shelo yashke et hasadeh kula. So long as he doesn't irrigate, I'm going to translate it, the entire field. Imur, Dishma'at le Rabbi Eliezer, harvacha delo. Okay, I would say, therefore, that we would learn from this that Rabbi Eliezer, okay, is not really so worried about the issue of profit.
Yes.
Okay, b'makom pseda, mishamatle. Okay, but the question of exertion in a situation of loss, okay, do we learn that from him here? Doesn't seem to be. El Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Hamani. If that's the case, then according to whom is our Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda. It seems to be according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanya, who teaches in a Braita, Ma'ayan Hayotzei B'tchila, again a spring that comes out early or initially. Mashkin mimenu, we irrigate using it. Afilu sadeh beit haba'al, even a field that is rain watered. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's the view of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, ein mashkin eleste beit hashlachim shecharva, that we don't irrigate except for, I'm going to put it that way, except for a normal field that would be irrigated that is at risk is a good translation. I was going to say in danger, but that's the message. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah Omer, he says, lo kach velo kach. He disagrees, not this case and not that case. Yet they're alkain. How much more so? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, lo yifne adam amat hamayim. A person cannot divert or clear out, okay, a channel of water with water, okay, v'yashke leginato, and to irrigate his garden, ulechurvato, or his ruins, okay, or ruins that are in his property that he's using as a place for gardening, planting, etc., etc. B'cholo shel moed, on the occasion of intermediate days. Mai charva, what do we mean here when we say ruins? Ilema charva mamash. If we're saying ruins in reality, lama li demashkila. Why does he even have to irrigate it? Right? Amar Abaye, shecharva mima'ayan, that it was ruined, destroyed from a particular source of water, a particular spring, right? V'yatsa la ma'ayan acher. But instead, there was now a different spring that was flowing. Okay? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, lo kach v'lo kach. Neither this case nor that case. Lo shna cherev ma'ina, v'lo shna lo cherev ma'ina. It doesn't teach, okay, there's no difference between whether the spring is ruined, okay, or stops flowing, and no difference if it's the ruins, okay, that the spring, okay, is ruined. Ma'ayan sheyatsa b'tchila lo, but a spring that has come up out initially, no. Mimai, then according to whom? Okay, under what circumstances? Dilma ad kan lo kama Rabbi Yehuda Beit Hashlachin in Beit HaBaal lo. Perhaps we're saying now up to this point, when Rabbi Yehuda says that an irrigated field, yes, a rain-watered field, no. Ele ma'ayan shiatza b'tchila. That he's only talking about a field, a spring that actually come up.
So you're building irrigation.
Dilma ate le'inpule. Perhaps then his concern is the fact that it might collapse. Okay, if you have brand new water spurting out of the ground, okay, and you're concerned that it's not properly channeled, I'll use that. Thank you, Alan. Okay, properly diverted, channeled, structured. Okay, it's very possible that the earth around it will collapse again and probably
And there's tircha.
right. So then you lose the source of water. There's also tircha, in other words, to clean it, to fix it. Okay. Aval ma'ayan shelo yatsa b'tchila. But a source of water, a spring that didn't just recently come out, delo ate le'infole, where there is not a worry or concern about it collapsing. Afilu beit haBaal nami. In that case, we might even say that even a rainwater field, it's acceptable. Im kain ma'an charmaye. If that's the case, says the Gemara, then according to whom is our Mishnah authored or designated? Elele Rabbi Yehuda, lo shna ma'ayan sheyatsa b'tchila, v'lo shna ma'ayan shelo yatsa b'tchila. But says the Gemara, rather for Rabbi Yehuda, there is no difference between a source of water, a spring that just comes out, versus a source of water that isn't new and didn't just come out. Beit Hashlachin, yes. If the field is watered by irrigation, yes. Beit HaBaal, no.
Low.
Watered by rainwater. V'hai dekatani ma'ayan sheyatsa b'tchila. And the fact that our Mishnah teaches that we're dealing with a spring, a source that is new, is the reason. Lahodiacha kochoda Rabbi Meir is to inform us of the strength of Rabbi Meir's position, namely, da'afilu ma'ayan hayotze b'tchila mashkin mimenu afilu steh haba'al. That according to Rabbi Meir, even if it's a source of water, a spring that is initially brand new and coming through, we can use that to irrigate even a rain-watered field. Now, let's go on. We have a slightly new topic, right? Itmar. It says here, okay, elsewhere in another text, Haminachesh, one who weeds, Vahamashkeh, Mayim Lizraim b'Shabbat, okay, or who,
Wet seeds.
okay, that would be one explanation. I had it that it wets the earth around the seeds, okay, on Shabbos, but in either case, the water is going to impact on the seeds, all right? Mishum Mayim, what is the question? All right, what is the issue that we need to warn him? In other words, which of the Isurei Malacha on Shabbos? Okay, do we say we don't do this because of the following Isur Malacha on Shabbos, right? Rav Ba Amar Mishum Choresh. Rabba says it's plowing. Rabbi Yosef Omer, he says Mishum Zoreya. He says it's during sowing.
Is it a mitzvah to warn someone if they're doing a malacha?
You want to make a suggestion?
Yeah, if it's a two distinctions, Isur Deraisa, Isur Derabanan, and the other distinction, know for absolute certainty he will not listen to you. So if it's an Isur Deraisa and there's a reasonable possibility he will listen to you,
Then you have
you're
a,
mechuyev to
you
give
need to
hasra.
warn them.
If it's an Isur Deraisa and you know for certain
That
that
he's
he
not going to
will
listen.
not listen to you, then you need not give hasra.
Right.
If it's an Isur Derabanan
Banan,
and you know pretty close to certain that he will listen to you, you give
still
hasra.
warn.
But if you feel he probably won't listen to you, you do not give hasra.
Knowledge becomes
Right.
higher wisdom.
Okay. Amar Rabba. Okay, so now we're seeing, so Rabba is giving one explanation. Rabbi Yosef Omer Mishum Zoreh. And Rabbi Yosef says it's different, Malacha. Okay, we're now going to see the Gemara is going to explore, okay, which one it thinks is the more appropriate hasra'a in terms of Malacha.
And this all has an impact on what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do in Shmiti here. That's
Okay.
why it's here.
Well, okay, kivati didi mistabra. According to me, it seems more logical, says Rabba. Ma darko shel choresh. What is the purpose of plowing? The refui iron, to soften or loosen the earth. Hainami mirfuye ara. This also is going to loosen or soften the earth. Amar Rav Yosef, kivati didi mistabra. According to me, it seems more logical. Ma darko shel zoreya letzmuche pera. What is the purpose of sowing seeds? Is to produce, to grow the fruit. Hachanami mitzameich pera. Here too, his desire is to produce fruit. Right? Amar le Abai the Rabba. And so Abai says to Rabba, L'didach kashu. Your view is problematic. With a Rav Yosef kasha. And Rav Yosef's view is problematic. Right? Let's see what happens. Abai continued. L'didach kasha. Rabba, your view is problematic. Mishum choresh. Right? Because of plowing. Ein mishum zoreya. Yes, ein, yes. Mishum zoreya lo. But
Oh,
because of seeding or sowing, the Rav Yosef kasha. Rav Yosef's view is problematic. Mishum zoreya, mishum choresh. Because of sowing, yes. And because of plowing, no. V'chi tema, kol heichad. And if you're going to say about the view that we have two possible isurim, right? Lo mechayev. If you're going to argue he should only be over on one, and all right, and not both of them. V'ha'amar Rav Kahana. But didn't Rav Kahana say the following? Zomer tzarich la'etz. If he's pruning a tree that has need of the wood, right? Chayav shtayim. He's therefore over on two different items, right? Echat mishum noteah. One, because the act of pruning actually allows for further growth, okay? Ve'echat mishum totzer, and one because of like harvest. Kasha, indeed, says the Gemara, it's a problem. All right, let's go on. Eitive Rav Yosef the Rabbah. And so Rav Yosef comes back and tries to give an answer to Rabbah. Ha minachei, the one who's weeding, vaha mechapeh, okay, and the one who covers earth with seeds, right?
Seeds with earth.
Okay, well, covers the seeds with earth, right? L'klayim, in that case, regarding that, lokeh, he gets malchus. Rabbi Akiva Omer, af hamikayim. Says Rabbi Akiva, even if he simply maintains the field. Bishlema ledidi, da'amina mishum zorea. That's why it's all right, according to my view, that I believe when I say that it is an over on sowing zorea, hainu de isura ria bikalai, because it's the prohibition of what we have regards to Kalayim. Elila didach, but according to your view, Rabbah, the amat mishum oresh, that you say it is prohibition regarding plowing, okay? Charisha biklayim mi asira, is there a prohibition of plowing regarding Klayim? Amar le. So Rabbah responds, mishum mekayim. I hold it because he's doing it as part of the maintaining of his field. And that was what Rabbi Akiva also said. Vahamed de Ketan Sefer. And here where it's taught at the end, Rabbi Akiva Omer Af HaMekayim, that Rabbi Akiva says even with regarding one who maintains such a field, Miklau, the Tanakama, Lav Mishum Mekayim. Okay. Now I found that the explanation that I had was Miklal de Tanakama, Lav Mishum Mekayim. Was it not then implying, okay, that the Tanakama, okay, is not concerned about the maintaining, but for some other prohibited labor? Okay, Kula Rabbi Akiva. This would seem to imply that this entire text is according to Rabbi Akiva. Uma'itam ka'amar. And what was the reasoning that we say? Ma'itam haminakesh v'amachpeh b'klayim lokeh mishum mekayim. What is the reasoning then that the one who weeds or the one who covers earth, right, watering the earth with the seeds, with klayim, gets malchus? Mishum mekayim, because he's maintaining this field. Sherabi Akiva Omer Afa Mekayim, that he says maintenance of the field, therefore, is subject to punishment. Ma'itama the Rabbi Akiva, what was his reasoning? The Tanya, because he teaches a Braita. Sadcha lo tizrak kilayim. Okay, that the pasuk clearly states, your field you should not sow kilayim. Ein li ela zoreya. That would seem to imply only in regards to sowing. Mekayim minayim, regarding maintaining the field. Okay, how do we know that's problematic? Talmud Lomar, because I have another source that says Klayim Sadcha Lo. Okay, that regarding diverse kinds, your field, it's not. Okay, in other words, not to be done. Okay, it's not. And I have a new Mishnah that's going to teach me back to our earlier subject of irrigation. Okay, Mashkin Beit Shlachim b'moed ubashvi'i. Our Mishnah taught we can irrigate a field done by irrigation on Chol Moed and during Shemitah Yid. Okay, Bishlema Moed mishum tircha. I can understand that the concern about Chol Moed deals because of the issue of exertion. Umakom Pseda, Sharu Rabbanan. And to balance the issue of exertion, the rabbis then made a leniency, I'm going to say it, or permitted it, because of a concern of potential loss. Right? Ela Shvi'it. But in regarding the seventh year, Bein Laman Da'amar Mishum Zoreya, Ubein Laman Da'amar Mishum Choresh. Whether we're talking about the one, Rabbi Yosef, right, whether that one or the other, one who argued the prohibition was plowing or the prohibition was sowing. Okay, but in this case, notice it's the opposite order. It's sowing first and then, okay,
Plowing.
then plowing, right? Mishum choresh. Zriya v'charisha b'shvi'it mishareh. Is it possible that sowing and plowing on Shvi'is, that seventh year, is going to be permitted? Amar Abai, says Abai, B'Shvi'is, B'Zman Hazeh. Okay, V'Rebihi. We're talking about Shvi'is at this time in our, and we have to hold by the view of Rebbe. The Tanya, as taught in the Braita, Rebbe Omer, says Rebbe, V'zeh davar hashmita shamot, says the pasuk. This is the, I'm going to say, aspect or element of Shemitah, and therefore we observe. Right. So what happens, says the Gemara? Notice it says Hashmita, and then it says Shamot. B'shtei Shmitot hakatuv midaber. The pasuk, says Rebbe, he's darshaning the pasuk, actually talks about two varieties of Shemitah, two aspects of Shemitah. Okay? What happens? Echad Shmitat Karka. One is regarding land. Ve'echad Shmitat Ksefim. And one refers to collecting of debts. Okay? Bizman She'ata Mishamet Karka. At the time that you have to refrain from working the land, Ata Mishamet Ksefim. You also refrain from collecting debts. Ubizman she'iyata mishamet karka, and at the time when you do not need to refrain from the land, iyata mishamet ksafim, you do not need, okay, to worry about, okay, you may collect that, right? Rabba Amar, says Rabba, okay, afilu tema rabbanan. You might even say it could be according to our sages. Okay, why? Okay, and here avot refers to the primary categories of work, right? Avot malacha. Okay, asar rachmana, the Torah prohibited. Toledot lo asar rachmana, but the toledot, the derivatives of those work, it did not prohibit. I'm just going to finish up. Dichtiv, as it's written, ubishana hashvi'it, Shabbat yeh la'aretz, sadcha lo tizra v'gomer. Okay, that's the pasuk. Michdei, since zmira beklal zriya, since pruning is included in sowing, ubitzira, and picking or reaping, beklal kitzira, is included in the reaping, lamai hilchata, kitavninu rachmana. What then was the source, the power, I want to say?
Why does the Torah have to?
Okay, why is it say here? Tune in tomorrow. La memra da'ahani toledot mechayev acharitna lo mechayev, etc., etc. So that's
Very tough lesson.
right. Okay. One of my problems was, why was the rainwater area called from Baal? Okay. And I had to think about the fact that maybe it referred, that was the reference that it was owned land by a settlement. And that is how they were able to rely on rainwater, okay, as their source of irrigation. Everybody have a good Shabbos. Stay
Good
well.
Shabbos.
Okay,
Have a good Shabbos.
now. Shabbos Shira. Right? Okay.
Just one point to maybe clarify. How is it that